This is One Sentence News, a daily podcast featuring 3 news stories with a sentence-long summary and 1 sentence of context apiece. I'm Colin Wright. This is a sponsored message. I've been using Anchor as my podcast host for a while now, and it's been a pleasure to use. Anchor offers benefits that most other hosts do not. It's free to use, but it also has a collection of tools that allow you to create a podcast completely within the Anchor website or smartphone app. They distribute your show to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other distribution channels without any additional effort on your part, and you can make money from your podcast without any minimum audience size. So you can use it as a more traditional podcast host like I do, but it's also got everything you need to start a podcast from scratch. If you're keen to give it a shot, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. It's Friday, May 20th, 2022. Let's talk about the news. From the New York Times, Russia-Ukraine War Summary. A 21-year-old Russian soldier who was accused of war crimes for killing an unarmed civilian has pleaded guilty in a Ukrainian court. The EU is doubling down on plans to completely wean itself off Russian energy imports within 5 years via a combination of clean energy infrastructure and new deals with other energy exporting countries. The Russian military has reportedly spent about 1.7 trillion rubles, which is about $26.5 billion, on the Ukrainian invasion so far, which is about half its entire budget for the year. And the U.S. State Department has officially reopened its embassy in the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv. The U.S. is reportedly making moves to push the Russian government closer to default by making it trickier for them to leverage asymmetric methods of paying non-ruble-denominated debt, which is something they allowed Russia to do by leaving open loopholes earlier in the invasion, which means, basically, Russia may soon be more likely to suffer longer-term international financial consequences for their invasion, rather than relatively short-term consequences. From Stat News, U.S. monkeypox case reported as Spain and Portugal report infections in growing outbreak. A case of monkeypox, which is related to the virus that caused smallpox, but which typically causes symptoms that are milder than smallpox typically caused, has been confirmed in the United States in a man who recently returned from a visit to Canada. This is a big deal, not just because monkeypox is super rare, but because there's a monkeypox outbreak happening in the United Kingdom and Europe right now, with 8 suspected cases in Spain, more than 20 suspected and 5 confirmed cases in Portugal, and 9 confirmed and 1 probable case in the UK. There have only ever been 7 confirmed cases of monkeypox in the UK ever before this outbreak, and the medical community is concerned that this pathogen may have evolved to become more transmissible recently, based on how rapidly and perniciously it seems to be spreading. Previous outbreaks of this disease were directly linked to people who hunt and prepare bushmeat, like monkeys and bats, in rural parts of Africa, so this spread in more urban environments is both puzzling and alarming. There are 2 vaccines that are effective against smallpox and monkeypox, but both are currently only available to people considered to be at high risk for contracting the disease. And from CNN, not usually one of my preferred sources, but they seem to have broken this story, so credit where credit is due. DOE announces multi-billion-dollar project to kickstart a carbon dioxide removal industry in U.S. The U.S. Department of Energy is announcing a huge investment in direct air carbon removal projects as part of a larger effort to start pulling carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, while simultaneously kickstarting an industry that will continue to invest in the same. There's equal parts skepticism and enthusiasm about this collection of technologies in the green policy space, as some worry that focusing on pulling CO2 from the air could distract us from efforts to stop churning it out in the first place, and might even incentivize a slowdown in the global decarbonization effort. While others say we can and must do both, as our efforts to electrify everything and move away from fossil fuels has been too sluggish, and now our only option for avoiding worst-case climate scenarios is to become carbon negative, not just carbon neutral, as soon as possible. That said, the DOE is now looking for developers who will build 4 direct air capture hubs capable of removing more than 1 million tons of CO2 from the atmosphere each year. at a cost of about $3.5 billion. Removing 1 million tons of CO2 from the air is approximately equivalent to removing 200,000 cars from the road. If you're finding some value in One Sentence News, consider leaving a quick review wherever you get your podcasts and/or sharing the show with a friend. You can find out more about this show or subscribe to the email version at onesentencenews.com. And you can support this and other related projects, like the Let's Know Things and Brain Lenses podcasts, at understandery.com.